This episode of On the Air is brought to you by Zoho, one of the world's most prolific software companies, trusted by over 100 million users worldwide. Zoho's comprehensive financial platform offers applications from accounting, billing, inventory, expense to payroll management, and much, much more, all within an integrated ecosystem. Plus, their dedicated partner program is designed to empower accountants like you to deliver greater value to your clients. Visit zoho.com/CPA to grow your firm and take your practice to new heights. Welcome to On the Air with Accounting Today. I'm Editor-in-Chief Dan Hood. You know, when you look at how the average accountant spends their day, one of the things that jumps out at you is how much work they do that doesn't actually require accounting knowledge. And that discrepancy only gets worse when you look specifically at CPAs, and even worse when you look at the partners of CPA firms who spend a lot of time doing administrative work or things that aren't specifically, were never on the CPA exam. That would all be fine if firms had plenty of CPAs and accountants floating around to do all that non-accounting related work. But in this day and age, they often don't. So what are the alternatives? Well, what if you found other people to do that non-accounting work? Here to talk about that and similar topics is Paul Peterson. He's the CEO and managing partner of Top 100 firm WIS, and they've been doing exactly that for something like 5 years now. Paul, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you, Dan. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to converse about this today. It's been something that a lot of firms have been struggling with, is just, the shortage of CPAs, and how do you start to, provide the foundation that the firm needs to continue to service the clients in the way that they're used to, but at the same time, add additional services that many clients are expecting an accounting firm to deliver today.
Say hiring non-accountants is an idea that's floated around for a bit, but there aren't many firms that have been doing it. So that's why we were particularly excited to talk to you all, because you've been trying it out for a good long time and having some success with it, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe let's start at the first, how do you identify work that non-accountants can do? Do you end up having to split up roles and saying, all right, we're going to take this little piece and this little piece over here and this little piece over here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think to kind of bring it back to where we really started looking into, say, non-accountants, right? Because there's a confluence, I think, of factors, right? One is just the shortage, and there was a demand for additional services that an accounting firm can provide, especially when we were able to do accounting through the cloud, right? Like that breakthrough, in essence, where you could do a lot of accounting work on behalf of a company remotely, and you could start to look at the economics of, hey, does this delivery of that service, is it something comparable to if a company had to hire that person on site, right? So with that, though, it really started it was the demand for that type of service from the opportunity that the internet really provided through the cloud, and we had to economically do it. So we did have to start thinking about, okay, what are like ways that we can get a lower hour, I would say, like hourly rate, because we're still up against this, what a company would pay to have this person on staff versus what they would pay us. Okay. So there's no way that if we just, hired accountants at what the salaries they would be doing and doing that type of work, that would work. Because so I think that kind of that economic push started to get us to look alternatively. And what we looked at were what fields had similar type quantitative, looks like somebody was in math, let's say, or we've taken a physics major and we've converted them. But what in the beginning, it was more about, hey, somebody is interested in trying to get into a bookkeeping career. And so that they were totally fine with educating themselves along the way. So it almost we had to find the person that was willing to make the investment in themselves at the same time. That's how it started. That's how we got into it.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it brings up an interesting point, which is there's kind of two ways of working, or two kinds of non-accountants you could work with, right? There's non-accountants who have expertise in something, right? So, for instance, we know a lot of firms have hired people from industries that they serve, right? So you're like, wow, this person ran a car dealership for 20 years. They're an expert in car dealerships. They'll
Yeah.
be great in our car dealership practice, even though they're not an accountant. So there's those people who sort of bring outside expertise, but then there's just people who are reasonably intelligent and willing to work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of talk about a physics major is a perfect example of someone who would have a similar set of mindset and skills and analytical abilities that you would expect in an accountant, but not have had spent a great deal of time getting through the CPA exam. So, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you divide that up? Is that are there some people you're not accountants you're hiring or experts, some people who are just smart and willing to work, or is it a mix, or do
It's a
you lean one
mix.
way or the other?
It's definitely a mix. Like, right. So I would say that there's three different, I would say, paths, maybe, right, to kind of generalize it. One is just like we talked about, it's somebody that is looking to establish a career change, or that maybe they had a quantitative background, not happy what they're doing, and hey, you know what? I'm interested to learn, and at the same time educate myself more. So if that's even at the level like, hey, I'll go get QuickBooks certified, and they'll be at that level, or I'm going to go to school at night. And so there were those that, and that we supplement. We'll help pay for their education and stuff like that. So so there was a desire, I think, of the individual that, okay, they saw themselves as wanting to invest the time and effort, right? The second piece was more from like where the clients are starting to look at us as to offering additional services because of the overall shortage, right? Because I think sometimes that gets lost here is that, you have like we're spending a lot of times talking about the shortage of accountants in accounting firms, right? Well, it has a massive, problem. There's a massive problem in industry. I think the demographics of a lot of clients, I think, has because of the baby booming population, and just like them exiting out, and what happened after COVID also affected industry. And so we started looking at were the demand for us to provide not just accounting, but more of like financial planning type services, like projections, budgeting, stuff that was more in like the finance slot, right? So the second slice, I would say, for us in terms of our growth and looking at non-accountants and bringing those skill sets to the client, were people that had, a major in, say, finance. We've converted some people that had a quantitative marketing type background, where they were doing research and stuff like that, where we can bring them in. And then, of course, data, right? So anybody that had now a data, background, or math majors, like the math majors are very good at learning the data aspects, and like getting them into the statistical ways of evaluating, hey, here's this customer is interested in this predictive type of analysis based on these trends. Can you help? And they get in there, and it's like they create magic, right? So I think that you add a lot of value by with these different disciplines. And I think overall the way I look at it is like your accountant stack is not just accountants anymore. It's like you were talking about, you can either, and we have a real estate industry expert that we've brought in too, as an example, somebody that may not have had the best background in terms of accounting, but offers that industry, right? And then just the third slice, I would say, which is really happening now, is around technology, and not just technology to offer as a external service and helping companies, but more on the inside we now have a fully operating group that's dedicated to not only tech, but, transformation, process, really trying to look at what the underpinning of an accounting firm will look like going forward, and how can you leverage your operation in this AI to be world. So that is like a whole host of different disciplines that we're now bringing into the accounting firm.
Yeah, yeah. You made the fantastic point, right? That the shortage is not just for accounting firms, right? It's every business in
Yeah.
the world is short of accounting staff, and accounting help, and they all need it. All these alternatives are awesome. And you've talked between the three different pathways. We mentioned it. We've been talking about different kinds of majors from college, but you also mentioned people shifting careers. Is this group of people, is it all over the map in terms of age and career position?
That is, Dan, that's an awesome question. I'm happy you asked that because I was just thinking to myself, like, you know what we've had success with too is people returning to the workforce after, say, raising kids. And they are awesome workers, by the way. Oh my God, they're
Need to
amazing.
get away from the kids. That's
Yeah, they're just amazing. They're like so focused and just but and they're so resourceful. I mean, I think a lot of times like we undervalue how much in the way of just time management and organizational skills that they they built on with with all the kids' activity, especially nowadays. I mean, but yeah, that's been a real and what's interesting about that, it's its own, it's become like its own recruiting way. Like once you start becoming, say, open to that idea, you get a lot of referrals from people that say, "Oh, I have a friend that's looking to this," or they share this. So it's been interesting that a lot of the growth, let's say, of bringing in, let's say, people like that has happened very organically, you know? Because there was at one point we were loving that this was happening and we were trying to figure out how do you kind of get to this population, because it's not the easiest way to go out there and just start screaming from the mountaintops like, hey, anyway. But yeah, because it's a lot easier to find college graduates or anybody that's, because you go to the career fairs and all this kind of stuff. So, but that's been really kind of a very important development for us in terms of just the evolution of the workplace, which is, again, helps you with just the shortage of accountants that are, coming out of college. You can't, there's more demand, of course, than there are seats. So like people that could fill these. So like, what are you going to do?
I guess just to clarify, right? The people we're talking about coming back after having children. It's not that they were accountants before and left to have children. It's people who might
It's
have
a
done other
combination of
things.
both. It's a
Oh, okay.
combination of both. We have had some that, just paused the career and have come back, but it's also people that, have it's interesting. Like some were doing books on the side because one of their family members just asked them to like keep a set of books. Like so it's like yeah, but for the most part, I would say that the thread there is that it was someone that wanted to come back and have some like career in either bookkeeping or an accounting related type job. Yeah.
Gotcha. You mentioned the cloud a couple of times, and there's a lot of obvious reasons why that's been a big game changer here. But I want to ask about one specific angle of it. Have you been looking sort of beyond your normal geographic range for this? I mean, one of the things that you talked about different price points for the hours you're
Yeah.
charging. If you're hiring someone from way out in Idaho, I'm assuming Idaho is a cheaper
Yeah.
workforce than.
I would say that, in terms of like, there's been so many inflection points, I think, over the past several years, just in terms of what's really transformed the accounting industry. I think it goes to like the cloud was one thing, right? Just like, and then like like COVID was another. COVID opened the door up for like possibilities that even though they pretty much existed before COVID, like you could do work remote, just like kind of, I think it changed the rules of the game where it was you can do that now and not be frowned upon if people want to do that. Opened up, like we have people, even our workforce, honestly, we have people working all over the place now. We have one person who works for us who's literally traveling Europe. Yeah, like goes to like yeah, sets like establishes like a place for a few months and then goes to the next place, Yeah, yeah, it's pretty
I
interesting.
gotta, I gotta
But
do
we have
that.
them all over the states now, which is kind of like giving our controller, fits at times because you have to file different payroll taxes in different states that you're not aware of. But yeah, but clients too. Like it's opened up the door to many. Like we had one of our largest clients is in Las Vegas now. And so yeah, I think it's just been wonderful from that perspective, and I think that's going to be just something that we continue to go after, especially with AI.
Yep, yep. Um, Excellent. You've talked a little bit about I mean, one that for particularly for people returning to work, there's a lot of referrals, a lot of word of mouth,
Yeah.
helping bring people in. You talked about college fairs. I mean, obviously, uh, a lot of firms are familiar with the college fairs for accounting. Is it hard to get into the the job fairs for other majors at colleges, or is it
Yeah,
pretty much a
it is.
straightforward?
Yeah, I think in a way I feel bad sometimes because accounting is so easy in terms of there's such a defined route for someone, and it's gotten earlier. I mean, nowadays, it used to be junior year. A lot of times people are getting scooped up sophomore year, right? So it's very defined, I think. So it makes it a lot easier for accounting majors to understand like what does that roadmap look like into a career. I think what's hard is the other business majors that are not, let's say, have a specific discipline, or if you're, let's say you were in finance and you didn't get hired into an investment bank and that's what you're interested in. A lot of times it's like, well, where do you go? What do you do? Or if you were at business management, it's like, well, so, and some of them, have the quantitative skills. So it's not like, because they've all had to take accounting classes. So there's some introductory class that occurred at some point in time. So we're not really starting from scratch, but we're willing to take a chance. If somebody's willing to commit to say, hey, I will learn, I'll take classes at night, and we offer a lot of for us, honestly, because we've really embraced this. We do a lot of training in-house. So we do have, but again, we've been blessed that the firm has grown that allows you to do these things, like we have like a whole people operations team now. Like we couldn't do that 10 years ago. We could do that now because we were able to grow. But we also, like try to also have outside programs. Like we have a partnership with Fairleigh Dickinson. It's right across the street from us in Madison, New Jersey here. So like they help, provide, like we supplement programs for them, the additional learning. But and there's on the job. So I think that's really become so important, is to have the culture that's going to support these people and have patience, understand that they're not going to have the same level of skills as you. Like, so if you're going to evaluate them based on that expectation, it's not going to work. People won't stay.
Well,
Yeah.
and you talk about the training and so on. Are you is I think I know have some sense of the answer already, but we're not looking to make these people accountants, right? You're not trying to train them up to be accountants to take the CPA exam and become full-fledged
If
CPAs?
they want, what's interesting about that, Dan, like again, like we've been blessed that the firm has grown and we become so diverse in service offerings that there's a path for so many different people. If they chose that, because we've had that, like we've had somebody that's come in and they've started it, even in tax, like you don't need necessarily to be a wonder at accounting in double entry accounting to do great at tax. So, we've also been able to get people into tax that did not have an accounting background, right? But what's interesting is that we try to give them exposure to different aspects of the business. And if they come in and they're in, say, finance, and we've had this, and they say, you know what, I really want to learn more about accounting, and I actually think I want to become a CPA. We've had that. So
And you're certainly not going to say no.
yeah, I got 100. Oh my God, we're all for it. Like, we'll pay for it. Go. So yeah, I think we try to, but at the same time, we can add a lot of value with people that don't want to. We're not like, I guess what I'm saying too is like, we're not baiting and switching either. We're not saying like, hey, come in here and then we're going to force you to be an accountant. But yeah, but I do think the opportunity though is there for someone if they choose to, even if it's exploratory, they may say, hey, I want to try this. And like, we've been blessed to be able to do that.
You're going to teach them enough accounting to do the job that they're there for, and if they want to learn more, you'll help them. But that's not the main thing.
Yeah,
Is can they do the work that
100%. I think, like we haven't touched on it yet, but like the other thing that is going to happen, which is really going to be interesting to how it changes the nature of accounting, is the intelligence that's coming with it, the AI and making, it's going to, like, we're already starting to see the effects where you could take an average accountant and make them good with AI.
Yeah, which is a 3 or 4 other podcasts entirely.
Yeah.
We'll have to have
Another day for
talk
sure.
about that.
Yeah.
I want to dive into that. I want to particularly dive into a little bit about the culture of it and what, how it has it affected your culture, if at all, and basically how do the non-accountants and the accountants get along. But we're going to take a quick break first. Thanks again to our sponsor, Zoho. Their powerful suite of finance applications help you and your clients stay organized, tax ready, and in control of back office operations. Learn more at zoho.com/CPA after this episode to join their partner program and see how you can leverage their cutting-edge solutions to drive business growth. All right, and we're back. We're talking with Paul Peterson of Top 100 firm WIS. They've been hiring non-accountants, a range of different kinds of non-accountants for roles, at a range of different roles at the firm for 5 years or so now. Have a lot of experience with it, and he's been sharing with us some of the details and some of the opportunities, and they're pretty exciting. I mean, the way you describe it, it sounds kind of like a no-brainer, right? It's a great way to approach the staff shortage. But I do want to start to talk a little bit about the interactions, put it this way, between the non-accountants and the accountants in the firm. There is, you said something, you mentioned earlier that people get on an accounting track and a public accounting track very early these days, and it comes with a certain set of expectations and a certain set of understandings about what it means to work in an accounting firm and what that's like and how you are as an accountant and your career paths and so on. If you're coming at it even from a business degree, you may not have some of those same understandings and expectations. How do the non-accountants and the accountants get along? Do you have to separate them at lunchtime? Do they sit at different tables? Do they not play with each other at recess?
Oh, that's great.
Is that an issue at all, or is it a?
No, I think it's a great question. I think like it definitely took some time, right? It was something that I think you have to be very intentional about fostering the ways in which they collaborate and that you're not segregating, if you will, just like you said, because there's like it wasn't easy at first because there's like a hierarchy in terms of mindset, right? And that's been in firms for many years. Like even one of the challenges, like I'd go even back prior to this, was always the professional versus the support person in an accounting firm, right? And there was always more of like a tendency that the professionals, anybody that was on the accountant track, was so much more important than anybody that, provided the support, which is kind of crazy when you think it's like we're so codependent and we like our support people are incredible in what they're able to do for us. But yet there was a hierarchy, right? And so that was something that's always been a challenge. And how do you overcome that? And then the next layer was when we did start doing the non-accounts, and how are they viewed? Especially, like again, it's there's a track that, people that have been here for years and years and years, their expectation was they look like this. This is what the quality of work should be. This is the expectation. So it took time. I mean, and I think you have to almost start in a way that you take one service area, I would say, and you work within that service area. I wouldn't recommend doing it like whole, I would do it intentional. Like especially again, where somebody is with their own accounting firm in terms of like, if this is kind of new to you, then pick an area where you can, get it to go and make it work. Because once you do that and it starts to really work and people start to see like, wow, this is great. This person is really helping me on the delivery to the client and I don't have to do this anymore, whatever it may be, like the work that they're solving for, like, especially as you kind of can emerge into other advisory type services, the value, like, especially if you become like the relationship person, that's been the most, I would say, like anybody that's listening here, that's in that relationship seat, man, is it cool to be able to deliver value to the client, that someone with a different skill set is bringing these insights that you're never capable of before. And you could see how much more value you're providing in terms of the service.
Yeah. Well, but I think that's a great point to say, start with one area.
Yeah, you have to, I think.
And particularly an area that's open to it, and then you can demonstrate success there, and that's going to make it a lot easier because that mindset, there's no question. I mean, it's the old division between doctors and nurses, right? It's the and everybody, if anybody's ever been in a hospital knows that the nurses are way more important than the doctors.
They do all the work.
No one treats it that way. But But yeah, and that's the traditional format. So it's going to be there's some hurdles there to overcome. Let me ask you, and we talked a little bit about this earlier. Have you found that they're bringing any kind of value beyond just the easing of the burden on your accountants and CPAs? Are they bringing extra value or extra perspectives?
Oh, 100%. I think, especially again, anyone in the data realm that has those types of skill sets, and it's even the way they use Power BI or other, say, technology, and then those that are real trained more to provide insights into the financial planning and analysis type stuff, so that they can really dig into the like what often happens is we'll team up somebody that's really good in our FP&A world with a data person. And then we'll get a specific project for a client. And the insights and the way that they're able to communicate. So the other thing which is interesting is the tools that they use to communicate is much more illustrative sometimes in accountants. Accountants, like we love Excel and doing our insights through Excel. And a lot of times our like other alternatives come through it at a whole different way. They communicate it much more, I would say, visually through charts or these like, ways of establishing here's where your starting point was, and let me, walk you through graphically how you got to where you are, and yeah, so that's another really cool thing that's kind of evolved. But I would say that what's really going to help us in the entire, I would say, like realm of accounting and taking a lot of the stress off of what it's like to be an accountant has been that we've been bringing in these transformational process people that we've hired out of I would say more like corporate environments where process means so much to standardizations and efficiencies. And we have such hope because we feel like we're in this transitory period of time, and what accounting looks like today and how it gets done versus what it may be in 2 to 3 years. And having these process people start to put in, I mean, the way they think is incredible, like A to Z, you know. But what they're going to do is by really trying to help us get our jobs done better. Like even just the collection of information is so painful. 1040. It's not the 1040 that's difficult. It's you can't get the information to get the 1040 done, right? So these people, I think, are going to have such a great impact on us over the next couple of years, and it's really non-accountant related.
Yeah, well, and that's something that I mean, when you talk about process, well, process is just getting it done. But when you talk about standardization, the value of standardization, the value of thinking differently about the process, which accountants generally say, well, this is the process we've had for 60 years.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would we
Why you
change
change it? It
change it? Because
works.
there's yeah,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't. There's 17 different bottlenecks that make people have to stay here four
Yeah,
hours every
exactly.
an extra 4 hours every week. And a project management or a process management person can see that. I think it's interesting you talk about communication skills because that's, for the last 15 years or so, everyone has been talking about the quality of accountants' communication skills. Let's just put it that way, or the lack thereof. And it's fascinating to, to find rather than expect accountants to be good at it, let's find people who are great at it and bring them in.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's helping us learn how to convey our thoughts better because I look, I was always an Excel guy. You want me to communicate something, I put it in Excel, I'd make a table out of it and I send it out, you know. So just the rethinking of what communication will look like in terms of providing insights has really been cool.
Yeah, very cool. Excellent. This is a big. We could talk a lot more about this. I can tell, but unfortunately, we're running up against time. But any final thoughts for firms, or first steps or final advice for firms that are thinking about working with non-accountants?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. I think that for me, like size should be irrelevant, right? Like even on a lot of the thinking, like I think a lot of times you think you got to get to a certain size before you go this way, or hey, we're not doing a lot of that service yet, so we're not going to. You could just do it. I just feel like there's and even on say this like bringing in people that are the non-accountants to help with the operation of the firm and thinking differently about skill sets. I just think it's like something to be very open-minded about, but not feel like you got to get to Well, we got to get to 50 million before we do that, or 10 million or 25, whatever the benchmark is. My recommendation would be just start, and pick an area that you feel like you could benefit most. Like, where do you feel like you said before, like, which is really interesting, is where you're having the most bottlenecks, right? And maybe that's where you start and think a little bit differently. And the best part about accounting is we're such a collaborative world that anybody wants to contact me, I'll be happy to help. Like, that's what we do. So yeah.
It is. I always say that about accountants. I'm stunned at the things accountants will share with other accountants.
Yeah. There's really
That
no
in any
trade
other industry
secrets,
would be a,
Yeah.
it would be. That's in any other industry, you'd be a trade secret. You're like, hey, I can't tell them about this. And accountants are like, no, let me walk you through it and give you my
Yeah. We have to help
spreadsheets
each
and my
other,
templates. And it's great for the profession. So awesome. Well, very cool, Paul. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I hope it inspires a lot of people to look at non-accountants as a potential resource. It sounds like it's working very well for you.
I appreciate Dan and having me here. And again, like we just, we got to galvanize together, because like the industry is too important for us to lose that trust that we've been so blessed to have for so many years. So we just got to continue to be able to service in a way that keeps us in that high regard. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you all for listening. This episode of On the Air was produced by Accounting Today with audio production by Adnan Khan. Rate or review us on your favorite podcast platform and see the rest of our content on accountingtoday.com. Thanks again to our guest, and thank you for listening.